Hey YouTube, welcome back to Dinner for One. Today I'm going to be making what I call my deluxe nachos in honor of today being Labor Day for my son. So basically the first thing we're going to start off by doing, and I'm already doing it, I'm working on it, is browning some ground beef. Since it's only going to be me and him, I'm only going to use a pound. Probably won't even use the whole thing. Some of it will probably get put away for tomorrow for something else. But anyhow, you're going to brown it up real well. I don't know about the rest of you, but personally I don't like my ground beef to be pink at all. I like it to be well cooked. If it is kind of pink, it makes me think it's not ready or it's uncooked, and it just doesn't work for me. So we're going to brown this up nice and evenly. And then we'll move on from here. So stay tuned. Let me get this done. By the way, as soon as it's done, as you can see, there's a lot of oil and fat that gets released by the meat. This is I believe it was 70-30 or something like that. I usually purchase those loaves of ground beef from Walmart. I just find that if you purchase one of those, you save money because there's not as much packaging. Plus, what I do is I usually cut it up before I freeze it into like 1 pound sections basically, and I put them in freezer bags, and that way I use it as I need it. If I know I'm going to use it tomorrow, I'll get it out and leave it in the fridge today so that by tomorrow it's ready to go. Sometimes I'll actually sit it out for a little bit before I put it in the refrigerator, just to kind of try to expedite things. I do not like to thaw it out like some people by putting it in the microwave. I feel like that actually starts to cook it, and that's kind of for me too. So I'm just going to go ahead and finish browning this up here the way I want. And as you can see, I'm breaking it up as much as I can because I don't like having big clumps on it. But let me go ahead and get this done. And once I'm done browning it, I'm going to put it in a little colander that I always use for meat to drain off all the excess fat. And once it's done, to my satisfaction, draining, I'll put it back in the pan and continue on from there, and I'll show you the next step. So stay tuned, and I'll be right back. Alright, so I'm back, and as you can see, my ground beef, I already drained it out. So it's nice and grease-free, I guess you could say, oil-free. In case you're wondering, this is the little colander that I use. It's a little Betty Crocker ones from Dollar Tree, believe it or not. It works really well. The plastic is a really hard plastic, and it withstands the heat of pouring hot oil in there even. I've been using it for about 3-4 years now, and it's never given me any issues. So anyhow, I have my ground beef here. I'm going to set it there. And when I season it, if you noticed earlier when I said I was browning it, I didn't mention putting any kind of salt or anything on there. And the reason why is because I use this, a pack of Old El Paso taco seasoning, the original flavor, to season my ground beef whenever I'm making tacos, burritos, beef burritos, or in this case nachos for my son. I've tried different ones, and this is the only one that honestly I feel he liked the flavor to, so that's the reason why I use this one. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to add a little bit of water to this, and then I'm going to mix in that seasoning, because if you don't add in the water, it kind of clumps together. So I'm going to add in the water, and that helps kind of create like a little, almost like a paste that'll adhere itself to the meat and gives it that flavor. So I add in probably about a half a cup of water. And as you can see, it's not that much. You can kind of see it in there. Okay. And I'm just going to go ahead and add in my flavor packet. By the way, by doing that too, when I put the meat back on the burner here, it keeps it from like trying to burn it since there's no oil in it anymore. So adding that water does help. And basically I'm just going to mix it in. It'll blend with the water. It'll start to stick with the meat. And as I was saying, the reason I don't add any kind of garlic powder or salt or anything like that when I'm browning the meat is because since I am adding this seasoning to it, this I feel has all the flavoring that you really need for your meat. So I don't see a point in adding salt and garlic and all that to it if I'm going to add this packet of seasoning. Plus, I wouldn't want my meat to come out like too salty or anything like that, because then I would end up throwing it away probably. So, and as you can see, you just kind of work it through till it turns to like a sauce that coats the meat. And then at this point too, I've turned down my heat on my burner. I had it earlier on about a medium low. Now I've turned it down to a low because I'm going to let it simmer here for a little bit. I kind of smash it down to make it like nice and even, and that's just so that the whole mixture of meat and sauce can go ahead and heat up and start to really absorb the flavor of that seasoning. So I'm going to go ahead and leave that there. And you'll see right away it starts to like bubble a little bit right there. See it? So just going to leave that for a few minutes so it really starts to get going there. And once it's done, I mean that meat's pretty much done then. It's ready to go for your nachos. Looking ahead to the next part. Actually, I don't make my own nacho chips. I could, but it just kind of lengthens the process. And as those of you who have been following my channel already know, I'm all about making it as quick and simple and easy as possible. I live alone, so that's again the channel. That's why the channel is called Dinner for One. For those of you that didn't know, of course, when I have my son here, it's dinner for two. But anyhow, even then, I don't like to drag out a process of making something to eat, because oftentimes my son will come tell me, Dad, I'm hungry, and it's kind of like at the last minute, so I need to whip things up quickly. The reason I'm doing the ground beef right now is just we're not going to eat right now, but it's my way of getting ahead. But later on, I'll be using these types of tostada chips. Hold on, let me zoom out a little bit here. They're called calidad. And I use those because one, they tend to be really good. Two, they're sturdier, I think, for chips than some of the other kind I've tried before. So yeah, I tend to use those, and I think with this, what I'm going to put on that, it'll work out real nicely. So I'm filming this section right now, like I tell you, just to have the ground beef ready. And then I'm going to set it aside. I actually already have my nacho cheese ready to go too. That's going to go on top at the very end. That basically I made, and I didn't film it, but I'm going to go ahead and share with you what I did as far as the recipe goes. In a saucepan, I warmed up some milk, probably about 3/4 of a cup to a cup of milk. And I added in a can of Rotel diced tomatoes with chili. They have different levels of heat. So I use the medium. I didn't want it too hot or too weak where you don't really taste the flavor. And even at medium, I'll be honest with you, it is pretty spicy, so be careful with that. And I stirred that in real well, and I let it heat for a little bit till I started to see it like get bubbly, probably at about medium-low on the heat. And then I went ahead and added in chunks of Velveeta. I had bought the smaller size Velveeta block, I guess you could say. And I cut it up into small pieces, small little blocks, and I put them in a little at a time and kept stirring it and stirring it until it all got well incorporated and melted. And then I stirred a little bit more, and I turned it down to a low heat, and I let it simmer for a little bit just to really kind of blend the flavors together. And that was it. And then I poured it into a plastic tub, and I have that put away as well, let that cool down so it's ready to go. So at this point I already have my ground beef, I have my chili con queso that's going to go on top. I'm also going to add in, and I haven't done it yet, but I'm doing that next. Going to have some diced tomato and some shredded lettuce. And also a can of refried beans that I need to warm up too. That can of refried beans, let me get that real quick so I can show you. Is these right here. They're called Rosarita. They're spicy jalapeno. Okay, so they're ready to go. And again, I just really need to warm them up. And so we'll add on top of the tostadas, I'll add on the seasoned ground beef, I'll add on those refried beans, some queso, and then the lettuce and tomato at the top. And that should be it. But I'll show you that process as I get there. So for now, please stay tuned and I'll be back. Alright, so I'm back, and as you can see, I'm working on getting the beans ready. So again, my thing is when I cook, I try to prep everything ahead of time as much as possible. So at the end, it's really just putting it all together for your final dish. These beans kind of come out in a, well, I guess I'd call it a roll out of the can. But then you have to kind of smush them and move them around and heat them up to get them to the texture you really want. They come with a little bit of oil in them, which is good, but I don't feel like it's really enough. So to help soften them a little bit more, I actually add in a little bit of water. Just kind of get them a little more softer, more smoother. And of course just move them around a little bit, because if you let them sit still too long, they can burn on you. I feel that adding the water just kind of loosens up the clumpiness, I guess if you will, of the beans. Makes them more stirrable. By the way, these beans are terrific. If you ever buy them, buy this kind for making burritos, just a bean burrito or bean tacos. They are delicious. I'll add just a little bit more water, and that should be enough to get them to where I need to be. There we go. I can already feel the difference. So again, you're going to stir these up as much as you can. I'm heating them as I'm stirring them. I have it on a very low heat right now, almost a simmer. Again, it's not about burning them, it's just about loosening them up and warming them up, because they're already cooked. Everything's already in there, it's ready to go, it's ready to serve really. You just want to be able to serve it without being clumps. So that's the reason why I do what I do. Man, they smell good too. Terrific for a bean burrito with some shredded cheese in it. Oh man, these are delicious. I've made home style fried tacos, bean tacos out of these, where you basically warm up your corn tortillas and you spread these beans in there, and then you pan fry them, the tacos, and set them to the side and let them cool and drain off the excess oil. Man, those are good. One tip, if you ever decide to do something like that though, make sure that you, when you take them off the oil and you set them to the side, I put them on a plate lined with paper towels, first of all, to absorb that extra oil, but also immediately before they dry up, sprinkle some salt on them. This gives that little extra kick. So as you can see there, my beans, let me get this a little closer. My beans are a lot smoother now than when I first started moving them around the pan. And that's basically what you want. You don't necessarily want them watery, but you don't want them clumpy. You want to be able to pour them over, ladle them over your nachos. Thing about it is, the more you cook them, you have to remember that even that water that I added in is going to start evaporating with the heat, so they're going to start to clump up again anyway. But that's the reason why you want to do this, you know, before you actually start to serve anything. So let me go ahead and finish this up. My meat's ready. My beans are now ready. I'm going to dice up that tomato and the lettuce. We should be ready to serve. I'm probably going to go ahead and reheat my nacho queso real quick so that it's nice and smooth as well. And I'll show you what that looks like in a few moments. So stay tuned. Okay, I'm back for just a moment. I wanted to share with you all what my queso looks like. Like I told you, that's about 3/4 of a cup to a cup of milk. And then I added in the diced Rotel tomatoes with chili. I used the medium heat one because they also have the hot and they have the mild. I use medium. And then I gradually just went adding in Velveeta and stirring it and stirring it and stirring it in my saucepan until it was ready. Once it was ready, I poured it into this container and I set it aside. So I just reheated a little bit so you guys could see. That should be the consistency you want. And trust me, with those tortilla chips, this is delicious. So, I'll be back. Okay, so I'm back. So in an effort to show you guys the finished product, I'm going to make just a small little batch of them just to show you what they look like when they are finished, okay? So the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to ladle a little bit of my, or pour, I guess say pour some of my ground beef, my seasoned ground beef over the nachos themselves. Okay, not too much. Alright. The next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead and get my beans. And I'm going to do the same thing. Drizzling it as much as possible. The next thing I'm going to do, I'm going to go ahead and take my queso. Grab a spoon here. Give it one last stir. I'm going to that all over it. And last but not least, the garnish. A little bit of shredded lettuce on top. Remember what I just said, this is more of a garnish than anything. You don't want to mask any flavors. And then a little bit of diced tomato on top of that. Now, I know some people put jalapeno slices, things like that, but I already have 2 items that are seasoned on there, which is one is the jalapeno beans, refried beans, and the other one is the queso itself that also has chili in it. So I think with those 2 you're going to have plenty of spice. Let me go ahead and pick this up so you guys can get a better look at it. And there you have it. My deluxe nachos in honor of Labor Day. I hope you guys will try this recipe. I hope you'll please like, comment, subscribe. And I hope you'll stay tuned for more. But for now, and as always, dinner for one is served. Have a great Labor Day.